Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sustainable Ramona's, the second annual offering in our symposium series. The first was a month or two ago on water conservation, and the one after tonight's will be on transportation in February. Tonight, we are fortunate enough to have Steve Weihe with the County of San Diego on food scraps and organics recycling, what you need to know. Steve is a certified TRUE advisor, master composter, and currently works as a recycling specialist for the County of San Diego's solid waste planning and recycling section. At the county, Steve provides technical assistance on composting and organic waste reduction efforts at unincorporated schools, businesses, and nonprofits, as well as education and outreach to schools and the community at large through various methods, including social media. Steve holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Studies and previously worked for the City of San Diego as a recycling specialist. So with that, welcome, Steve. Why don't you take it away from here?
Thank you, Rob. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Again, as Rob mentioned, my name is Steve Weihe, recycling specialist with the County of San Diego. Been there for about 3 years. Previously, same position with. So thank you for joining us. That's kind of what this presentation is going to be about. So we will jump right into it. Really what's driving this whole thing is SB 1383, Senate Bill 1383. We'll go into that. Organics is kind of why we're here. When we talk about organics, we're talking about food waste, food scraps, food soiled paper, green waste, yard trimmings, anything that was, once alive, can go in that organic bin, and we'll talk all about that. And then go into what we call blue bin recycling, everything that can go in your curbside blue bin, and the mandatory recycling ordinance that took place this summer. And then, of course, have time for you guys for some Q&A. So Senate Bill 1383, I believe it was passed and signed by Governor Brown in 2016. So it has been a long time coming. But basically, the gist behind it is to get organics out of the landfill. When organics break down in the landfill, there's no oxygen. It breaks down anaerobically and generates methane. And landfills are the third largest generator of methane right now in the state. Methane is somewhere in the range of up to 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat. So we're finding out that this is a big driver to global climate change. And this is one way that California is going to help tackle that. So it does require 75% reduction in organic waste by the year 2025. That's a big overarching goal. And to do that, 20 million tons a year needs to be diverted. So that's a massive number. And this is across the board throughout California. So not only are we going to have to do this as San Diego County, but every other city and county throughout the entire state is tackling this problem as well. So what is organic waste? Yard trimmings, that could be leaves, it could be grass, it could be branches, plants, succulents, anything like that. It's all your fruit scraps, so not only your fruit and vegetable waste, you can now include things like bones and meat and dairy, typically things that we ask residents to keep out of their backyard compost pile. But since this is going to an industrial scale compost facility or anaerobic digester, which is fully enclosed, they can definitely start taking those materials without any issues. Eggshells are fine too, breads, any coffee grounds, tea bags, prepared foods, that's all fine to go in. Food soiled paper is another big one. That's like your napkins, your paper towels, your coffee filters, your tea bags. Now, greasy pizza boxes go in your green bin or your organics bin, where typically a greasy pizza box would have had to been thrown out. Of course, clean pizza boxes go in recycling, but the greasy ones can now go in your organics bin, which is really nice. Any new sort of paper takeout containers that aren't coated. So if there's an obvious wax coating or something, I would probably still discard those. But some of the just basic paper ones are okay to go in there. And then the last category is non-hazardous wood waste. So any lumber, pallets, things like that are fine. So again, organic waste is the largest waste stream in California. If you look at the graph, it's over 50% of what currently still goes into landfill. So again, coupled with 1383 identified this, and this is how we're basically going to tackle it. I think we saw with COVID, you know, that this 1 in 5 Californians are food insecure, which basically means they don't know where their next meal is coming from. It's not a guarantee for them. I think we even saw that dip down to 1 in 4, maybe even 1 in 3 Californians with COVID. So in getting all the organics out of landfill, a big part of that is rescuing, of course, edible food for people. So organics recycling. Again, I'm live in Ramona, and I from EDCO or Ramona Disposal right around early October to start putting food waste, food soiled paper in the green bin, which typically had been your yard trimmings or your green waste bin. So now everything can be commingled, which is really awesome. If you guys don't have an organics bin or even a green waste bin, we've been getting a lot of calls from residents that just have a typical trash dumpster that have never been offered recycling or green waste service before. However, that is changing. So if you guys do not have green waste service or have it and have not been told by your hauler that you can start putting food scraps and other things in there, I would just go ahead and reach out to them and see if that's an option now, because it will definitely have to be an option coming soon. And for these, the same materials apply for residential as well as commercial. So everything you guys see on the right side here, again, meats, dairies, eggshells, vegetable scraps, food soiled paper, and all your yard trimmings. What goes in the bin for residents is also the same for commercial customers. So the no items are very important. Some other cities within California will allow compostable bags, and that's because their facilities can handle those. They'll break down. With the system we have through EDCO, their anaerobic digester does not accept compostable bags. They did a trial and it tends to clump them all up, and they don't break down. So it's actually a big issue for them. So we would just say, you know, place your food scraps and food soiled paper in the bin loose. Definitely no plastic bags, no compostable bags. However, if you want to wrap anything up, it's okay to use paper bags. You can use newspaper or paper towels. If you guys would rather do that, that's totally fine. Some of the other no items, obviously, we don't want any blue bin recyclables in your green cart. No dirt, no rocks, metal, diapers, things like that. Just some simple items that aren't really big but do help. If you take off your produce stickers, twist ties, and any rubber bands, because those are not organic. They're not going to break down in the compost system and will have to somehow be screened out. So definitely that would be a big help if you took those off. So if there are any businesses on the line, some of the requirements for this, you do need to meet a minimum diversion service ratio. And right now that's 35%. So whatever your service ratio is for trash and organics, we would just ask that at least 35% of that be either recycling or organics collection. There are some requirements to provide containers, not only for back of the house, but also front of the house. Full service restaurants are exempt from front of the house, but they still need to have bins for staff. That also has requirements for signage, and then the labels and colors do need to match the bin. So hopefully, you know, blue is recycling, green would be organics, and then like a gray or a black would be your trash. Businesses are also required to provide annual training, both for new hires and current employees. And the law would prohibit employees from placing materials in the wrong containers. And if that's done, then of course staff or management would just need to coach them on that. And the last bullet that says here, inspect containers for contamination, and then re-educate. It could just be as simply as, you know, this dirty coffee filter doesn't go in the trash. Now it actually goes in the organic bin. So education is always important. As staff turns over, doing that will help out a lot. We do offer quite a few resources for commercial businesses, not only signage. We can come out to the business and right size, meaning if you have a large trash dumpster now and you start recycling and you start diverting your organic waste and food scraps, you can actually reduce your dumpster size for trash. and increase your green waste and recycling. So that could potentially save you some money, but we would definitely want to get you on a smaller trash bin since we're now diverting a lot of that materials. We do have a lot of these in different languages, so that's an option. We can make custom recommendations. We have signage again, and we may have bins available for commercial businesses as well. So just some of our resources. We have dumpster stickers, of course, that would go on a recycle bin. And this is almost a 2 foot by 1 foot. So it's pretty good size. No trash stickers would also go on those recycling bins. Our landfill stickers, of course, would go on the trash bins. And then we have smaller 8 by 8 square recycle stickers, which could go on interior recycle bins. And then a metal sign, which would go on like a trash and recycling dumpster enclosure outside, just listing everything that's accepted and aren't. Again, no bags. I think bags are probably one of the main culprits. So for residential, I believe Edco is offering a kitchen caddy to look similar to the one that's on the screen. And if you guys have a different hauler than Edco, I would just reach out to them and see if they offer you a caddy. If not, I think the one I have at home is SureClothes, and it was like $12 on Amazon. We've had it for years, and it's been great. So just trying to break it down in some easy steps here. So your first step would just be choose a container, something with a lockable lid or closable lid would be best. And again, we talked about the caddies. If you don't have one, just reach out to your hauler. Know what to throw. So definitely know what's going to go in the bin beforehand. Again, I think Edco's tagline is if it grows, it goes. Anything that's grown, anything that's come from natural materials, you can even place like toothpicks and popsicle sticks and stuff like that in there, totally fine. But we definitely want to get your food scraps and your food sold paper in there as well. So place them directly in your collection container. Again, we don't want any plastic bags. We don't want any compostable bags. If you guys do want to line it with a plastic or compostable bag, that's fine. We would just ask that you dump it in the final green container, not in a bag. So you could take your bag out there, turn it upside down, dump it out, and then just discard the bag. If you're concerned about smells or liquids or anything from your bin, you can actually put it in a paper bag. The paper will break down very quickly in the anaerobic digester process. You can also place them in a newspaper. You can place them in a paper towel, and that'll kind of soak up some of the liquids as well. So again, directly in, that was number 3, we already covered that, sorry. Number 4, so store your container. What I do is just under our sink. It doesn't smell, it's kind of out of the way, but still very convenient to grab. If you're going to cut up some strawberries or you're making soup or something, you have your bin right on the counter, just cut it up. It's very easy just to put it right back in there and put it under the sink. Again, if you guys are concerned with smells, or some people have stated, if they're going to have rodents because now it's out in the green waste bin rather than the trash, the scraps are always still out there. It's just going from the trash bin to the green bin. But best practice for that, we can put our scraps in the freezer, and that completely mitigates the smells. And also, if you guys want to dump your food scraps and food sold paper in the green collection bin the night before, that really helps. So then it's not sitting in the sun. It doesn't have time to start, liquefying. So if you guys need any other tips or anything, we can definitely help you with that. So last step, of course, is just transport it to the bin. You can add yard trimmings and leaves and things like that, or newspaper to the bottom of the bin to soak up any liquids. That seems to really help. But yeah, night before collection, I think would be a best practice if you guys are concerned with any sort of smells or anything. All right, so moving on to our designated recyclables. This is the same for residential as well as commercial customers. The Board of Supervisors did pass updates to the solid waste ordinance in the summer. So this includes mandatory recycling both for single family, for multifamily, and commercial customers. So everybody that's been recycling, this isn't really news to you guys. It's more of the kind of sparsely populated areas that typically haven't had curbside service, like, some of the farther reaches of Hamul, Hakumba, some of the places that were really far out now may actually have curbside recycle service. So just some of the materials that we require to be captured, of course, aluminum CRV cans. You guys are more than welcome to start to keep taking those materials to get that CRV back. That's fine. We're not mandating where you take the materials, just that it be diverted from the landfill. Aluminum includes pie tins. It also includes clean foil. So your glass bottles and jars could be jam jars, pickle jars, spaghetti jars, but also your CRV bottles, as well as wine bottles. Cardboard and paper products encompass office paper, cardboard, could be cereal boxes, could be cartons, could be junk mail. Things like that are required to be diverted. Any of your rigid plastics, 1 through 7, that is what the ordinance says, 1 through 7. However, our outreach has been kind of ignore the number and just go by shape and size. So we say if it's a container or if it's a bottle and it's typically larger than like a credit card or like a 2x2, then it can go in the blue bin. Anything smaller than that typically falls into the glass, broken glass line and contaminates the earth. So yeah. Tin and bimetal cans, which could simply be soup and bean cans. Those are required to be recycled. And then, of course, large appliances will not fit in your blue bin. However, that is still a designated recyclable material. And those of you who have Ramona Disposal or EDCO, I believe they do accept those at the transfer station, or you can go ahead and book a bulky item pickup, I believe. So just some requirements for the residential portion of the designated recyclables. Of course, keep them separate for trash. You can arrange for separate collection, and that's subscribing to a 3-stream service, which is trash, organics, or green bin, and then, of course, blue bin for your recyclables. You can also contract with what's called a certified recyclable materials collector, and that could just be a recycler. If you generate enough, like if you're a business, they could come to your business and go ahead and pick those up and either pay you for it or maybe pick it up for free. We've been getting lots of calls from residents who are more rural, who have never had a blue bin, but still recycle and still want to recycle. So we've come up with a self-haul program, which basically certifies that if they're willing to haul the designated materials to a recycling center, that they do not have to have a blue bin and they can waive that service. They do need to sign up. They do need to keep receipts. That is something we monitor and check up on regularly, and it is something that we sign off on. So that's a very simple form, but that is an option too. For the organics portion, the requirement, if you are already composting and you're already handling everything on site, that's something that we can potentially look at a waiver for, is the green bin portion, if you're handling green waste and stuff on site as well. So for commercial, fairly similar, subscribe to a similar 3-stream, trash, recycling, and organics, or green bin. Again, businesses are welcome to self-haul. That would be self-hauling all recyclable materials, just like residential generators are required. If you have a landscaper or something, we just require in contract that he or she will haul the materials and go ahead and recycle those. But of course, an organics or green bin is a separate option. So if you guys don't have that and you'd like to inquire with Ramona Disposal or another hauler, I would say just reach out to them and see if a green waste or organics route is available in Ramona for commercial businesses. And then just some extra steps: maintaining records, employee training, we mentioned landscaping contracts, and then there is a portion that requires edible food donation, and that's typically for larger businesses, for supermarkets. I do believe it's for restaurants that are larger than 5,000 square feet or have 250 seats. So not sure if any of the restaurants in town or in Ramona proper would fall under that 5,000 square feet limit, but I can definitely let you guys know if you reach out to us. And then again, waivers may be offered under certain circumstances. There are no waivers for recycling. For the blue bin materials, you're welcome to self-haul it, but everybody has to recycle. And again, just some tips. If you guys joined me on the first one we did, it was all about blue bin recycling, kind of how to do it, why to do it. And this is something that we came up last year. We call it recycle right. And so number one is empty. We need to keep our recyclables empty, which if you see the peanut butter jar, it's not sparkling clean. We don't need to put it in a dishwasher. You don't need to waste a lot of water. I mean, just a simple scrape out is fine. But our definition of empty is no or minimal food residue. So the next one is equally important, is dry. So really it's no liquids remaining. So what I tell a lot of people is just turn it upside down, give it a couple shakes, screw the cap back on, and then just set it in the recycle bin. But that's one thing that can really ruin a good load of recycling is liquids, whether it be soda, water, oil, anything like that. And then last one is loose. I know it's kind of counterintuitive because we do bag our trash. However, all the recyclables do need to be touched by people and by machinery once it gets to the MRF, which is the material recovery facility. Every single item needs to be handled separately. And there's conveyor belts and magnets and different things. And if it's in a bag, that can't happen. The bags also clog the machinery. They don't get recycled in a bag. We would just ask that you take the bag, turn it upside down, dump your recyclables loose in the bin, and then either reuse or discard the bag. And so this is what's called a star screen. So materials start on the left side and they move from left to right, and these discs rotate. Smaller materials fall through, larger materials like paper and cardboard kind of surf over the top, and those get sorted differently. So when plastic bags and things like tanglers, we call tanglers, anything that's going to do this, a rope, a cord, a chain, a hose. If you look really closely at the picture, I mean, I can see some clothing in there. I can see some chains, but those are a definite big no-no. I mean, they have to stop the complete operation. So nothing's flowing through the system, get in there on their hands and knees and cut everything out. So this is where not bagging stuff comes into play. No plastic bags in the bin, and no tanglers. And this is actually what the star screen is supposed to look like. So if you see a side-by-side, right next to this gentleman's hat on the right side, you can see a chain. I see like a telephone cord. There's definitely some clothing in there. And as this fills up more and more, the things that are supposed to fall through the screen are not able to. So smaller materials that would typically fall through the screen and get sorted differently now surf over the top and can potentially contaminate bales of cardboard and paper. So this is why it's very important to keep non-accepted materials out. And ideally, that's what we'd like it to look like, is what's on the right there. So this was a post that I found from Northern California. And if you ever needed, a picture of what a ball of tanglers look like, I mean, this is probably 6 feet tall by 8 feet wide. Of course, you see hoses. There's lots of tubing. There's pallet wrap. What else? There's wires. This is all the gunk that clogs it up. And I'm guessing they probably just threw it in a big pile, and it makes a great photo op, to put it front and center. We may feel good about putting a hose in the recycle bin because we don't want to throw it away. But again, not only does it cause issues, but it's going to the landfill anyway. So best option is to keep these out. And again, just another graphic we created, loose in the bin, don't bag it. What I have at home is just a small bin, and we just take it and dump it in the larger bin. Very simple. Same thing with organics. We talked about not bagging it, no compostable bags, no plastic bags. Paper bags are fine because the digester and all the bacteria will eat that paper very quickly. So paper bags are not a problem. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate your time. And that's kind of our general email address that I will take a peek at a couple times a day. So if you guys have any questions about anything, I'll usually get in there. And if it's not something I manage, I'll parse it off to our team so we can answer. So anything about organics, food waste, composting, recycling, where to take something, hazardous waste, send us all the questions there. And we'll definitely get you guys set up. Shortcut to our website is the letter R, the number 1, and earth.org, r1earth.org. We'll get you there, and we've updated our website with tons of resources, lots of resources for recycling and composting. And then we've been posting on Facebook about once a week or every 2 weeks. And a lot of the questions that we get from residents, I usually direct them back to Facebook because we've already posted on it. So County of San Diego, County of San Diego Recycling, if you guys care to follow us, and you can shoot us any questions there. So I will go ahead and stop sharing and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
There are some chat questions.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yes, so now it's a good time for questions and answers. And I've got a couple myself. Thank you so much, Steve.
Sure.
That was great. My wife doesn't let me put cheese in our compost for our garden. So is cheese allowed in the green waste?
Yes. So anything typically in your backyard compost bin, we've been telling residents no dairy, no meats. Cheese obviously would fall under dairy. And the reason for that is it can create odors and it does attract different pests. So it could attract, rodents and raccoons or possums. However, the anaerobic digester that most of our stuff in Ramona is going to, it handles that stuff no problem. It'll break down bones and meat, everything like that. So green bin that's picked up by the hauler, assuming that's Ramona disposal, that stuff's all fine to go in there now.
So including meat, dairy products, and that kind of thing.
Everything that's grown, that's lived, that's, been alive at one time. Yes.
Great. And recycling is now mandatory for all of us. Mandatory. Correct. Which is wonderful because there's so much wasted stuff most of the time. But how does enforcement work?
So we're actually in the process of hiring 4 more people right now, and I'm pretty sure that half of those will be just field people, flipping lids, going into bins. A lot of it's driven by complaints. We do have a lot of wording in our solid waste agreements with the haulers, and of course EDCO is one of those. To do contamination monitoring on their customers, to do so many bin checks a year. So it's going to be, a team effort with not only the haulers, with our people out in the field, and then of course with our staff doing education and outreach like this, posting on social media, updating our website. So yeah, it's mostly consumer driven, but we'll also have people in the field as well as the haulers to help us make sure everybody's doing the right thing.
And this will be different from standard county code compliance for building infractions and signs and things like that.
Typically, we like to say we do an education first approach where, if we go into a bin and we see it's contaminated with stuff, we might knock on the door or send the resident a letter. We're definitely not one to just go and hit with fines. It's an option down the line with non-compliance, but of course we definitely try to do everything we can with outreach and education, send them letters, make phone calls, site visits, because some of it's just, they might not have all the information. So that simple, either face-to-face or letter or phone call could just take care of the problem the first time. But yeah, I don't know specifically that code compliance is going to be on that. It might be actually our people. Right. But the haulers are going to help out with that a little bit as well.
I have a couple questions. This is Donna.
Sure.
Let's see. We always go to the transfer station and take our recyclables to that huge pile that you throw it in. And then our non-recyclables go into the other part of the transfer station. And we compost everything else here. Will we have somebody coming by to sort of check on us or what? Since we really don't have any service out here.
Well, do you even have a trash? Do you have like a trash dumpster or trash bin?
No.
So you take everything to the transfer station and then just compost on site?
Right.
So the way we're doing it now is through hauler reports. So right now, Waste Management, Republic, EDCO, and others will give us, these are the customers we have. This is their service. So what we've been doing is picking out the ones that have like trash only dumpster service and then either reaching out to them or EDCO will reach out to them saying, hey, recycling's mandatory. Here's how we can help. However, as I said before, recycling is mandatory, but it's not mandatory. You have service. So if you guys are diverting, all the required recyclables, the metal, the paper, the cardboard, the plastic, and taking that to the transfer station in town, that's totally fine. If you guys want to take your trash, what little trash you guys have there, that's totally fine. And then if you guys are composting everything that I talked about on site, then that's totally fine too. Yeah, there wouldn't be any need for us to come by, and we may actually just sign off on it based on the hauling report that you're compliant. But yeah, if you have any questions, we're definitely here to help. But yeah, we're not going to walk around door to door and door knock. It's more looking at the hauling reports and seeing where the kind of the holes lie and trying to fill in the different services.
Well, I guess our issue over the years, we're at the end of a 2-mile dirt road, or actually there's one place further, and the few neighbors on the dirt road do have the service, because we noticed the blue bins coming out and all. And we don't even know, is there a charge for the service if you did say we do it? There's only 2 of us here, so we don't really have that much trash, and we take care of it ourselves. But is there a charge if you do it, to get the blue bins and the trash bins and stuff?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, EDCO's a private business, and, other haulers are too, and they have to make money. That's not something that we regulate, though, as far as their fees and what they charge. However, what we've been hearing is to add a, recycling cart has been about $40. And typically this has been somebody like you, who's at the end of a windy road, or their driveway is very far from their house, that hasn't ever had recycling service in the past. So now that it's available, a lot of people don't want to pay that $40, and they don't want the blue bin. So we've just been signing up on self-hauling. So again, recycling is the mandatory portion, but it's not mandatory that you have bins. If you guys are willing to haul your own stuff, then that's totally fine.
Okay. And I had a question for you last time you spoke with us, and this is, I still have my plastic bags. I'm not getting any more plastic bags for the last year or so. I wash them out, but where can we recycle plastic bags? Every grocery store is not taking them. So
I go down on my commute, I'll go through Poway. I know the Walmart down there has them. I know Targets have bins still set up. As far as in town, I'm trying to remember if Albertsons or Stater Brothers might.
Albertsons, no.
Albertsons does not.
Stater doesn't either.
Really?
Stater's doesn't either, but I know Sprouts and Poway at Midland and Poway Road has a bin.
They
as
do,
you
yeah.
walk in the door.
Yeah.
Are the bins just out in the parking lots or by the store?
No, they're inside. Yeah, right inside the doors. So there was actually a bill. There was a lot of really great bills around recycling and plastics that got passed this last round, which we're really happy about. There was one that was going to mandate stores taking back plastic film that either didn't pass or got pushed off to the next legislative cycle. But if that's something that you guys are interested in and want, I can send out some links to Joyce if you want to share it. But when that pops up, if you choose to, definitely reach out to your elected representatives, and because there are bills out there, and that was one of the things it would have done, is mandate take back bins. So again, I know Target still has them, Kohl's might, Walmart does, I know Sprouts does, Trader Joe's does not because they don't generate plastic bags. But yeah, I save all mine, and once it's big enough, I'll just go down and dump them in Walmart's bin. It's just right inside the door.
And I have one more other question. I guess I can put my photo on there, but the cardboard, maybe I should do that. Like the almond milk comes in. Let's see. I'll do that. Like these. Can we put those in the recyclable there? Yeah.
Cartons have been able to be recycled for a number of years. And so the best practice with those is to have them keep their shape. So empty it out and then screw it back on, but don't squish it, because there is an optical scanner at the MRF that can read it's a carton and it'll shoot it off into a different area. If it gets flattened and squished, it'll think it's paper or cardboard and it might shoot it off to a different area. So yeah, all cartons are fine. Just make sure they hold their shape. Don't squish them at all.
Okay, because they do have a plastic film over them.
Yeah, so that's my understanding is it varies paper mill to paper mill, but a lot of them can handle that. And so the plastic will get removed. The paper actually gets made back into, toilet paper, office paper, Kleenex. Some of the plastic might become waste of energy or go to the landfill, which at least if the paper is being recovered, something's being recovered. But yes, cartons can go in there. That's totally fine.
Okay. At the grocery store, because we knew the paper plates like you get at Costco, those have a plastic coating on them. So we haven't been able to recycle those, but we did find just 100% paper plates at Albertsons. And so those can go into the paper one then.
Yeah, I think like just the white ones that are very thin that don't have any logo or anything on them, those are fine. I don't know about the Dixie ones if they have wax or plastic. Obviously, those wouldn't be able to go in the recycle or the organic bin if we do know that there's plastic on them. But of course, I always I get on my parents about this because they like to use paper plates, and we go back and forth with the dishwasher, and it's much more water friendly to use reusables and put them in the dishwasher than to use paper plates. But if you guys have to, yes, just plain paper without any coating or stuff is fine, and those now can go in the green organic bin. So yes.
Yeah, we try to use very few, but sometimes when you have company, it's easier.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And then it's tossed up. How much water do you use in your dishwasher compared to? It's always a balance thing. Yeah.
Even if ideally your dishwasher would be full when you run it, that's number one. If it's not, newer dishwashers use such a small amount of water and, virgin paper plates. A lot of paper plates I don't think have any post-consumer recycled content. And I know a lot of water goes into, cutting down trees and pulping it and doing things. So I would say even if it's not a full load, you're still saving water by using reusables, and then you're just not generating the extra waste. So, but I get it. We do the same thing. We have compostable plates. One company comes over, and now those can go in the blue bin if they're just straight paper. That was the other thing I was going to mention. No compostable plastics in the organics bin. It's been, personally, I thought that was going to be really neat, getting away from petroleum-based single-use plastics, but unfortunately, they're not consistent the way they're made, and they don't break down consistently. If it's a fiber-based or paper, compostable, takeout container, or soup bowl, or paper plate, that's fine, but nothing that says PLA or any sort of compostable plastic. Unfortunately, those just have to go straight in the trash. I've put them in my compost bin, and it's been 2 or 3 years, and I come back and they're still there. They need, commercial facilities, but they don't want them because they don't break down and they contaminate what comes out. And so, yeah, and until we find something else to do with them, I would probably stay away from compostable plastics if you guys can.
Well, thank you.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a good job already. So we have two compost bins at my house and 2 worm bins that my daughter really likes. So we put like our watermelon scraps and strawberries in there, and the worm castings, the fruit trees really like that. So, but yeah, this is going to be a change, going from stuff that's traditionally gone in the trash, to put in the green bin, but it is generating renewable electricity that EDCO's powering their trucks with. So they're not pulling natural gas, out of the ground or fossil fuels. It's actually coming from food waste, which is really neat. And then there is a liquid and solid fertilizer that comes out of that system too. So, yeah, we're really excited about that. And another composting operation just opened up in Otay down in Chula Vista. So I think they're set to start accepting like 30,000 tons of food waste a year, I think is what they're permitted for. So City of Chula Vista will be taking up a good portion of that and surrounding areas. But there's quite a few options coming on board. So hopefully in the future, the norm will just be either composted in your backyard or, you know, simply put it in your green bin where we don't have to put organics in the trash anymore.
Steve, could you touch on methane again? You may have mentioned this and I might have missed it, but I understand that food waste in landfills contribute about 30% to the methane buildup. Is that correct? I heard you say something about methane in landfills early on.
So I want to say, coming from the Cal Recycle presentation that I watched, and that's the state kind of recycling entity, landfills are the third largest producer of methane in the state. And that's a big reason why SB 1383 came into play. And I think the top end of methane is it's 84 times more potent than CO2 at trapping heat.
Yeah.
So again, if we get organics out of the landfill, not only are we doing away with a lot of that methane, but that goes back to, you know, the food insecure people or hungry people. Is there's so much good edible food going in the landfill that, you know, it's twofold: getting rid of the methane, but also, you know, feeding hungry people, feeding animals, you know, sending it to composting to pull the energy out, different things. So yeah, an EDCO system is completely enclosed. So when the organics and food waste break down, nothing's lost to the atmosphere like it is in landfills. And that's all captured and injected either back into the lines or it's fueling their trucks, which is kind of cool.
I can throw out one more oddball question.
Please.
Well, since you're the guru on all the recycling, we saw on the news the other day, they were talking about people turning in their used clothing, you know, to Goodwill and Food and Clothing Closet and all, and just how so much of the clothing ends up being shipped overseas and it is just trashed all over their beach. It's they were saying, I forget which, was it Haiti or one of the, in Africa, it's just covered. I mean, and they're pulling up all this clothing that has all the designer labels and everything. Our clothing is not all being recycled. What else can we do with it?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that's not the case. I mean, I'm sure some of that is ending up. There's a nonprofit called California Product Stewardship Council, and they're doing a lot of really great work around textiles, textile manufacturing, upcycling, trying to figure out recycling options. And the gal that kind of runs that has a PhD in textile science. She's really smart. So they got some really great people working on that to try to figure it out. But there are a lot of brands that are realizing, you know, it's not so much fast fashion anymore, that we can actually take these clothes that we make, you know, recapture them, respin them into, you know, cotton or polyester or whatever. But that is a big issue, and that's obviously not a blue bin item. That definitely doesn't go in the blue bin. There's collection containers like US Again. Goodwill's a good one, all your charity, you know, kind of ones, but you know, that can kind of go back to, you know, refuse or avoid or reduce or reuse is, you know, if you're able to shop the thrift stores and kind of don't buy the, you know, I'm sure we're all guilty of it, and I am too. Just the, you know, $5 t-shirt that, you know, is going to break in a couple months, that's just going to be thrown out. So yeah, they're definitely looking at a lot of that. And we have a whole webpage devoted to textile recycling and kind of what happens to it. But unfortunately, you know, if it's not handled correctly, like I'm sure that news story you showed, you know, things like that do happen. And, you know, hopefully that opens up people's minds and, you know, realizes that we have to start dealing with these things a little bit differently. So.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any I don't know who we could address to or write letters to, because this was on CBS, just one of their regular news stories. But that we pay other countries to take our garbage, our throwaways. And so, of course, they want the money and they take it. And there's bales and bales and bales of clothing is what they were showing. I mean, it was just disgusting. But they'll do it because we will pay them to take it. So I don't know, who could we address? I guess maybe our legislature, our representatives, see where it goes, or if there is like you mentioned, one company.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know that I've reached out to my elected officials as often as I should or could, and just remember that they work, all of us, and just let them hear from you. If this is something that you're concerned about, let them hear from you. And if they hear from enough people, it could go that route. But what I like to do is just, vote with my dollars or vote with my wallet, and really support companies that already have a take back program or already making clothing from recycled materials. Like I found these really neat shoes that are made from recycled plastic bottles. The bottom sole is made from like car tires, and when they break, they'll actually send you a prepaid label and ship it back to them. Then they break it all down and restart the process. So there are companies out there that are doing that. So I would just say, research it, and companies definitely care about what you think about their products. And I just choose to support with my dollars the ones that are doing a really good job. And I think that is catching on, and letting others know that there is a want to be more sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Helen says, yes, buy things that last longer, buy reused, and rewear what you own. Good words.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Things that last might be more expensive, but in the long run, it may be worth it. I know that Levi's either came out with a special line, or they're looking into making jeans out of old jeans, which is really neat. And brands like H&M and a couple other ones actually have textile recycling bins in their stores now, and not just for their customer. I mean, you could just walk in there and drop your recyclables off or your textiles off. And again, the onus is kind of on them to make sure it's dealt with responsibly. So ideally, we'd like to see stuff stay local or go back to the factories and be remade back into those clothing. But, like you said on that news story, is that there's some that fall through the cracks. And I think that was a big thing that happened with China and our recyclables, as we kind of got used to, throwing a lot of plastics together and things that weren't maybe necessarily recyclable and shipping them to China. And China finally said, we're not taking your junk, which has actually been beneficial for us, as it spurred a lot of development in recycling markets in the US, North America, Mexico. A lot of stuff is staying local. As close as LA for stuff like glass, metals and cardboard and paper, I think stay within Mexico and within the US. So initially we didn't have markets for this stuff, but now it's starting, to further investment in domestic markets, which is really nice. I think that's a good goal to shoot for, is to keep recyclables as close to home as possible. There's a lot of benefits to that.
I have a suggestion. This is Lynn, for the old t-shirts and old socks and stuff. I use mine to do my dusting. I cut them up, or I use the sock over my hand with like Windex or whatever, and clean with those. And then I just wash them and keep using them.
Yeah, that's perfect. That definitely works. And even if you have an old t-shirt that's 100% cotton, when you're done and it just dies, and that's not something that can go in the green bin per se, because I don't know the ecosystem can handle it. But if you do have like a backyard compost system, even just a simple bin, eventually that will break down and disappear. I tried it with one of my just scrap t-shirts, and I think it took a year or two, but eventually it just kind of disappeared. So yeah, that's cool to reuse and you skip buying paper towels, and you can wash them and reuse them. So yeah, that's perfect. Good job.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your presentation. It was wonderful. It was very illuminating. I've been recycling things that I need not to recycle. Specifically, I save all of the, I bought a place that used to have a lot of the old 1/2-inch black drip irrigation line, which I don't like because you have to replace it every 2 or 3 years in the sun.
Mhm.
And I've replaced the watering systems with underground PVC. And I've been carefully trying to place those in the recycle bins, but I think I better stop doing that.
Yeah, it's a tangler, and that they don't have any way to capture it. And right now, if you generate, here's the thing with recycling: if you generate enough of something and somebody wants it, you can technically call it recyclable. But you got to have the demand, you got to have the place to take it. And with something like that, it is a tangler, so there's no way it would make it through the machinery. There's commercial businesses that generate enough of that stuff that manufacturers of that will come and drop a truck, and they'll pick it up and make it back into that same thing. But just you and I with a few pieces here and there, it doesn't make sense. And yeah, like you said, it's going to get tangled, and it's going to go in the landfill anyway. Maybe some creative reuse, something. I mean, upcycle would be my only thing. Otherwise, unfortunately, yeah, that would go in the trash.
Would it be possible to chop it up into smaller pieces? Does that recycle?
No,
No.
because like I said, anything less than a 2x2 is going to fall through the cracks of the screens, and it's going to contaminate the glass and different things. There's no way to capture it, but it's just for plastic to go in the blue bin, it needs to have shape and size. So that's why we like to say containers and bottles. So detergent bottles, shampoo bottles, plastic water bottles, strawberry tubs, anything like that is totally fine.
Okay. Yet another reason not to use the black drip irrigation line. Let's
Yeah,
see. Donna says, fast fashion in the U.S. is fueling environmental disaster in Ghana.
Oh, I just threw that up there. It's a YouTube one of the CBS News story. And there's other ones. If you just Google about discarded clothing to other countries, I mean, it's just, I was shocked when I saw this. I guess the desert out in Chile desert also is piled up with clothing. It's just, I mean, I was really taken back when I saw that story. So not to give you a damper on your day, but that's there.
There is one more thing that can be done with a black drip line, though a bit cumbersome if you got plenty of free time. They actually used in the vineyard are a spiral design. So the design is they're using tying vines to drip lines or drip lines to a wire. And so the ones that are defective, instead of throwing them away, though a tedious process, you just put them in like a piece of PVC with a little blade in it, and you turn it and it creates a curlicue. And then you take those, and if they're about 2 inches long, you can use them to wrap things with it. And they're reusable for that. And they're used in vineyards to do that, for tying things to lines and drip lines too. You can wrap them over it. That way you can also use them to tighten up. It kind of works with the Chinese finger thing when you push them in. It works kind of that way.
Yeah, I've also used a few of those for tree planting. When you have a stake and you don't want to use something tight that'll put a crink in the bark of the tree, but that's soft enough to where it can move around and protect the tree itself. So, but I don't have thousands of those, and I've probably run into enough of this waste where I could have.
Yeah, it's a slow process, and if you have spare time.
Yeah.
And there's no machine made for it right away to do that, but obviously there is one that makes it for the wine industry or vineyard business.
Well, it sounds like creative ways to do something with items that can't be recycled, because those the drip lines in the landfills, they're bound to take a long time to disintegrate.
And so just on that, since we're talking about things that shouldn't go in the blue bin but might have other options, this was a random thing that happened with some of the breweries in San Diego, mostly within the city of San Diego, but some of the unincorporated ones. So they started looking at some of their largest waste generation were like grain bags and pallet strapping and shrink wrap and stuff. And obviously those can't go in the blue bin because they're tanglers and they cause all kinds of issues. But going back to that, you know, anything's technically recyclable if you get enough of it and if you have someone to buy it. They're looking at consolidating some of the other breweries in San Diego. And so while one of them maybe has, I don't know, 15 grain bags a month, well, the bigger ones have much larger ones. And if we can consolidate all those together and bale them, well, now we take a material that can't go in the blue bin, but can still be recycled. So that's kind of a neat side project that we're working on with them. To figure out, you know, if they're recycling correctly and if they're diverting their spent grain and their food waste, you know, what's left and are there options for that? And it seems like there are. So that's kind of interesting, something they're doing. And I think there's a press release coming out about that. And if you guys are interested, I can send that to you. But yeah, something really neat that they're working on.
It might be something that Sustainable Ramona might take on. Just things that in that category that can't go in the blue bins, but just take what I was talking about, the black recycled lines, and somehow have a collection point for that and a contact to where those can be sent back to the manufacturer and rebuilt into more of them. That might be a great way to keep them out of the landfills and things like that.
Sure. Yeah, the question is always freight and cost. Which is why traditionally blue bin recyclables have been, you know, what they are. A lot of the other materials are very costly. You know, like styrofoam is very light, takes up a lot of space, and different materials. But yeah, if there's somebody out there that wants it, and you know, us as consumers, we can hopefully drive that if we say, you know, we want more sustainable options and things made out of more recyclable materials. As we can help to drive that market too as we reach out. But yeah, that's something interesting. I know TerraCycle has some free programs for kind of non-blue bin materials, and you can ship stuff like that back for free. And so what they do is they get money from manufacturers to, let's say it's, I don't know, baby food pouches or something. There's a couple companies that'll pay to take those back. So TerraCycle is offering free boxes. You know, you set up a collection point, they put them on there, they take them back, they pelletize them, figure out how to recycle it. But yeah, if that's something you guys want to look into or work on, I think there's a few pretty simple materials that we can create a collection point for.
Great. Well, does anybody have anything else for Steve tonight? If not, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us this week in our series on green buildings and homes and associated
Thanks.
parts thereof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Any you guys have my info, especially Joyce. Just shoot me any questions, or I know in-person stuff's coming back. So if you guys ever want to have an in-person event or just want to get together for a face-to-face, you know, I'm out here in Ramona and I'm happy to do that too.
That's great.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
You
Tomorrow
got it.
night at 6:30, we'll have Robert Carr and Tom Abrams in What is Building Electrification? So with that, it's a little after 7:30. And Joyce, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I was having a little trouble unmuting myself. Nope, that's good. Just remind people about the electrification of buildings, which you just did.
Great. And Dan and Helen, you had that question earlier. Yes, these everything in the series is getting recorded. Walt is recording it, and I think it generally takes 2, 3, 4 days to get posted on the website, but then it's downloadable from that point. So we have everything in perpetuity here.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
everybody. Thanks
Yeah,
for recording.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good night. Bye.
Interesting.
Thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow night.